Hi, I'm Philip Hundle, and my law practice focuses on representing landowners that are facing eminent domain or condemnation proceedings. We've talked in the past, several other videos about the Matterhorn pipeline project. It's a large pipeline project involving many counties from out in West Texas. It passes just north of Austin and Williamson County, and then dips down at an angle towards essentially Wharton County, Fort Bend County. I always want to give updates about this project. Many of you affected by this project have been contacted by right-of-way agents or gotten sued, with temporary restraining orders, issued against you so that Matterhorn can survey or enter your property and survey. So most of that surveying has been completed. There has been some follow-up need by Matterhorn to do some cultural resource surveys, or I call it archaeological surveys. So if your property has a water body on it, a creek, a river, or a lake, oftentimes if that pipeline route or that route goes through the water body or near the water body, there's some additional surveying that needs to be completed. That's happening right now with a lot of different tracks, and maybe that's affecting you, maybe not. Also, right now, there has been the initial packets being sent out. It's a packet of 30, 40 pages. The initial offer letter basically is what we call it, initial offer letter, IOL, from Matterhorn to the landowners. So, even if you're represented by a lawyer, you will get this directly. It's something that even when us, the lawyers, notify the condemnor and say you're represented by a lawyer, they will always directly send it to the landowner. Most of the time, they'll send the lawyer a copy as well. I've gotten copies of these from Matterhorn. So it does what all these initial offer letters do. It gives the initial offer amount. It attaches the landowner bill of rights. It attaches the their standard easement right-of-way agreement. Now, note this easement right-of-way agreement incorporates some of the new language from the last legislature on eminent domain reform. So you'll see some additional paragraphs, as opposed to in the past there were less paragraphs in this proposed easement agreement by a condemnor. And this one has 19 paragraphs in it, or provisions. What are some things that I look for in these easement agreements, and things that will need to be revised and improved upon, and that's part of the negotiation process with the condemnor. Is they've limited the diameter size. They've limited to one pipe. That's good. But the above and below ground appurtenances, are not limited here. They tend to not want to limit them, to give them more flexibility. And that's something that's very concerning to landowners, is what could be on the surface of their property. Also, the right of ingress and egress, and how broad that is, and how that affects the rest of their property, even outside the easement area. So lots of provisions that, although the legislature has attempted to try to help landowners by, drafting some basic or initial basic provision, there's some tweaks that need to be done with those, obviously. And it's really important. Each track is extremely different. Each track has its own requirements and needs. Landowners have different uses of their property, and that has to be taken into consideration in the easement agreement, and also future uses. So that's one thing to think about. Well, what exactly is the landowner doing on the property right now? But you, as a landowner, think about, well, what in the future, what do I have intended, or frankly, what it was the next generation have intended on the property. And those are difficult things to really try to take everything into consideration, but that's really what you need to do. And then, on this initial offer letter, it doesn't have, I'm going to say I'll call it the final plat. It's just, it kind of has a diagram or sorry, it has an aerial with just a kind of a shaded diagram of the easement area or the proposed easement area. It's not specifically, you know, surveyed out on a typical survey plat that you would see. So that's something that I know that, as the process progresses, that's something that Matterhorn should have available and make it available. Take a moment to read if you haven't read the Landowner Bill of Rights. It explains a lot of things, the procedures. I think that's helpful for landowners. More information is always, helpful. And then oftentimes you'll see, and this is my interpretation, but the condemnor includes the W-9 in the packet, and I guess that's just kind of my my interpretation, or in my opinion, that's the condemnor's way of being optimistic about the landowner accepting the initial offer. So really important if you're affected by this project. I've said this before, I'm going to continue to say it, is understand your rights, understand the obligations of the condemnor, understand the process so that you know what to expect and when to expect it and what to expect. But more importantly, seek out and talk to an attorney that handles condemnation cases for landowners, so that you can become more familiar, more comfortable with what's going on, or more familiar. It's not something obviously you probably ever will get comfortable with, but as long as you're more knowledgeable, I think that lowers the stress level, and that helps with negotiating, trying to get the best arrangement in the easement terms that you can, and then also monetarily. So with that, good luck. Once again, initial offer letters are being sent out by Matterhorn. You will have gotten one already, or you will be getting one soon. So with that, good luck.